Mujib, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to get the chance to chat with you. I actually discovered you through Instagram. I saw your work and I immediately fell in love. Absolutely beautiful stuff. And so last year you were named Loop Design Awards 100 Most Inspiring Architectural Photographers. So congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Your work. I went through your entire portfolio, all your Instagram. Your work is very clean. There's clearly a lot of attention to detail, beautiful lighting, and one thing that struck me, lo and behold, you tend to shoot with almost all the lights on, and yet your whites are white. So congratulations on that. And we'll dive into how you do that and your post process, all that stuff. But really honored to get the chance to sit down and chat with you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the opportunity.
So, you're in Nigeria. I'm presuming Lagos.
Lagos, yes.
Lagos. Okay, excellent. And maybe if we can just tell us a little bit about your backstory, your history. I understand that you studied mechanical engineering, and what's really impressive to me is that you only got into photography like 5 years ago.
Yeah, yes, pretty much.
Yeah, so
Pretty much.
and you began as a wedding photographer and made the transition very shortly thereafter to architectural photography. So maybe you can kind of walk us through a little bit about your history and how you came to do that.
Okay. If I'm to put it this way, I would say I ventured into photography by mistake. Um, I started off as a wedding photographer, not because I really wanted to do wedding photography. I was actually, I was actually, I had a 9 to 5 job. I was working facilities management. I had reached executive, I reached senior management roles. I had gotten a senior management position. But something unfortunate happened at work. So I walked out of it. I walked out of the job, and then on my way on when I was driving home, I was just wondering what exactly have I done? And then I go home and I saw my baby sister's camera, basic, a very basic DSLR. I think it was a Canon 1000D. So I just picked it up and I was just funding with it. And just to let you know that before then, nobody trusted me with taking their photos. I was a horrible photographer. So yeah, I was the kind of person where if we're trying to do family photos or just take random shots of things with phones, I'm never the one that people call. Because either my hands are shaky or I'm not having a very good composition. So people never call me first. So should I say it's quite ironic that I picked up the camera and I was fascinated going through the buttons and I said, okay, hey, let me just try. And I started taking pictures. I didn't know how to use it. I was just snapping with auto mode. I was just shooting with auto mode and shooting random stuff. And I said, maybe I should just try. And then I dug a bit further, watched a couple of YouTube videos, signed up on a course on Udemy, learning how to use Lightroom. I was scared. I was scared of Photoshop. So I never looked at Photoshop.
Oh wow.
So everything about my sojourn into photography and how to edit was everything was through Lightroom. So yeah, I never had intention of shooting architecture, at least not professionally at that time. Um, I I was more concerned when I started taking photos, and I think the major genre of photography that is very popular here is wedding photography. So everybody that wants to be a photographer wants to be a wedding photographer. So that's what I wanted at that time. So I was struggling. The market is quite saturated, to be honest. Many people trying, so it's more or less like if you're trying to go in, you have to bring your prices down so that some people will consider you, and you are there for more than 12, 14, 15 hours, shooting weddings, so it's quite cumbersome, quite tiresome. tiring rather. So not that I planned on the side. I was just using my phone to drive. I see a very fascinating building. I take a picture of the building, my phone, just for random, just randomly, not even thinking about whether I was going to use the photos for anything. Um, some very iconic structures here in Lagos. Just taking their photos. I opened a separate Instagram account, and I was just dumping those photos there. You know, uh, Fortunately for me, one day, one day, I just received a call. Not even a call. I think it was an email. An email. I happened to be the I think it was the wife of the CEO of a major construction company here in Nigeria. So when I saw the email and they liked my work and they said, okay, they had seen a couple of photos I had taken of their buildings, and I said, oh, okay, wow. So at the beginning, I was a bit, concerned. I was wondering whether the email was genuine, whether it was really from someone that is really
Who they said they were.
who they said they were. Yes. So I was a bit confused. I was a bit jittery as to should I reply them? Should I not? So I just said, well, let's see how the conversation goes. So I responded and said, okay, fine. And they introduced themselves. I said, oh, wow. Yeah, from this construction company. Said, fine. I said, yes, the MD of the CEO wants to meet you. I said, wow, okay. And then I go over to the office, I think the next day, and yeah, they take me to the boardroom and I sit down and say, yes, they're fascinated with my work. And I'm wondering, okay, I just shot with my phone. I didn't edit anything, just straight out of the phone. I just posted it. Mm-hmm. And they said, yeah, they liked it. And they said, okay, they'll give me 13 of their projects to shoot. I said, wow, okay, nice. I think it took me about 6 months. 6 months thereabout to shoot all 13 projects.
Wow.
So while I was shooting, I think I had a conversation with my wife, and she just told me, so Mujib, are you not thinking that you should do architecture photography full time instead of struggling in the wedding photography genre? I said, well, it's looking like it's really. And interior and architecture photography then was not very popular. Mm-hmm. People just took pride in taking their projects with their phone. Not many people were posting their work.
Sure.
So I said, okay, well, yeah, it's not a saturated market. Let me try it. So I got it. That was how business started. Started doing that, and I think there was an interior design firm that also saw me and wanted to try as well. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started. Yes, that's how business started.
And were you shooting on your 1000D at the time?
Yes, I was using the 1000D. Okay. At the start of shooting the construction company project, I upgraded to a Canon 60D. In fact, that was the camera I used for quite a while. I used that for about 3 years thereabouts, mm-hmm. 3.5 years. Okay. I used that with a 10 to 10 to 18 millimeter lens. Mm-hmm. I shoot all natural. I don't use lighting. So interior was all natural. I put on all the lights. That's how I was doing then actually. Okay. So I put on all the lights, open all the windows, or so that every available light I can get, I use. So it was quite fascinating then. I struggled. I won't lie, but I think I was happy with my work. I was just shooting in brackets of 3, merging, mm-hmm. Merging as a HDR on Lightroom, and I was so proud. I was so proud of my work. I was so proud of my work then. I felt like a superstar then.
So when you look back at your photographs now, are you still proud of them, or are any of them still in your portfolio?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, actually. Because sometimes I tend to just go back to the very beginning. I scroll down my Instagram feed to the early days and I see my work then. Mm-hmm. And then I look at my work now and I say, yes.
You see the improvement?
Even if I say so myself.
Yeah.
It has been a long journey, to be honest. I have, I think because I am so passionate about it, so I registered a lot of courses, watched a lot of YouTube videos, and then at some point I realized that if I was going to go far in this, I can't rely solely on Lightroom.
Right.
And then so that was when I now started to learn how to use Photoshop. So it's been a crazy ride, but yeah,
Yeah, no, for sure. So you are entirely self-taught then.
entirely self-taught.
Good for you. That's amazing. So YouTube videos, books, hands-on, trial and error, all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah, that's
Yes.
amazing. I'm noticing on a side note too that I think probably from the just as a product of you being in Lagos and me being in Canada, we've got quite a delay. So by the time you finish stop talking and I jump in, there's probably 3 seconds there. So apologies in advance for our overlap here.
No problem.
Yeah, but so maybe just very quickly, you can give us a bit of a picture of what it's like shooting in Nigeria. What's the market like for architectural photographers there?
Yeah, right now, it's opening up. At the beginning, when I started, you could actually count the number of architectural photographers with one hand. We're not many. Even if we were, many people were not posting their work. So even the awareness was quite low. So I wasn't seeing myself that way. I wanted to be known. I wanted to get myself out there.
Mhm.
So I see how much of the market I could grab. Just before the market becomes saturated. So that was my intention at the very start. But now I think there's quite a bit of awareness now. People now want to take professional photos of their work. Um, uh, those who were a bit skeptical back in the days are more open now. They're accepting it now. Yeah, we still have a long way to go, because when we see how it operates in the US, in Canada, in the UK, compared to how we do things here, we still have quite a long way to go. But I think it's baby steps. I think gradually we'll get there.
Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great. Well, just judging strictly by your portfolio, it looks like you've got some very modern, beautiful architecture, lots of opportunities to shoot. I didn't. I did a little bit of research on Lagos before talking to you today. It's obviously a massive city, so there should be lots of opportunity for you into the future.
Yeah, yes, actually. More buildings are springing up. Very top-notch developments are coming up every day. People are trying to be more contemporary, more modern in the way they build their things. People are trying to, for interior designers, people are trying to mix minimalism with contemporary interior design. So people are trying to think out of the box to do a lot of things when it comes to design, interior design, and architecture. So yes, I think the awareness is there. People are trying to be different. People are trying to be out there now. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So your focus is very much on residential, commercial, and hospitality architectural photography. Do you have a favorite thing to shoot? A way that you're trying to direct your career more in?
Um, Personally, yeah, I tend to like commercial more. Um, but you say, hey, the residential is what brings in the daily money.
Okay.
So we had to shoot a lot of residential projects. If I'm to say how many projects I shoot, or if I put them in a ratio or put them in percentages, residential will probably carry like 60, 70% of it.
Oh wow.
You know, yeah, commercial will probably, if I'm using a 70, commercial will take 20, hospitality will take 10.
Mhm. And is that
But
typically for builders, designers, architects, or is it more real estate?
I think it's just more real estate.
Okay.
Uh, or I think gradually, because people focus more on residential.
Mhm.
There's a lot of focus on residential. Offices have, it's just now the offices are trying to be more modern. I follow trends as to how offices abroad and how people are trying to incorporate the formal and less formal and semi-formal kind of workspaces and all that. But I've been very traditional for a very long time. Going to have an office, plain white walls, desk and tables, so nothing fancy to shoot. So people are most spending or spend yes, have been spending a lot of their time designing residences. So interiors of residences, people, I think that's where the focus has been. But now that things are changing, and offices are trying to be more modern, try to keep up with trends, so that and now that we have influx of multinationals coming into the country, so everybody is trying to keep up and make sure their workspaces tell a very good tale about how they work and how we want to be perceived. So I think that's why more offices are now beginning to open up and more, flexible when it comes to office design. So that's why we should when it comes to shooting, commercial spaces are not as many as residential, but they're coming up.
Sure.
Yeah, they're coming up now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think it's if the nicer the space is, the easier it is to shoot in many ways.
Yes.
If you've got some money behind the design and the architecture, it always certainly helps. But now, on that note, I often like to ask photographers this question. I think of it as a bit of a chicken and egg question, in that do you find that clients typically hire you for your unique style, or do you find that people love working with you and you have a relationship with them, and therefore they're sort of expecting you to adjust to their brand and their style? Which do you find it is for yourself?
I think it's a mix of both, but I try to control the narrative. I always try to ensure that it's part of the questions I ask clients at the very beginning. Why me? So as to why are you hiring me as against the other person? Sadly, as I said, since it's still an emerging market here, people are still trying. So we focus a lot on cost, on the price.
Okay.
So you ask a photographer here, and it gives you an amount. Then you move to the next photographer, it gives you a lower amount. So you're not even concerned about the quality of work that they do. You are just looking at the price.
Okay.
So that's what drives it. That's what drives a lot of things here. So if some of us are trying to control that narrative, to say, okay, are you hiring me for my value, for the quality of work that I do, or because I'm cheaper than someone else? So it's a mix of both. There are people that just call you, oh, I love your work. But when you tell them your rates, then they move to somebody else.
Okay.
And then there's one thing that there's a common trend as well, where because yes, we're in the modern world now, everybody's checking Instagram, social media, and Pinterest, and seeing what's happening there. So they see a photo, they call the photographer, and they show the photographer certain photos and say, okay, I want my photos to look like this. So it tends those kind of jobs. I don't accept those jobs. When I started, yes, because I was just starting. I was desperate. I was trying to create my own, create my niche. But now I think I've got to that level where I think you hire me based on the kind of the quality of pictures I turn out. Okay. For the style that I use. Mm-hmm. As against the first things people ask you is, hey, I came across your page. Yeah, I like what are your rates? That's always the first thing. What are your rates?
Sure.
And I say, I try to throw rates to the back burner. And I say, no, let's leave that first. And let's discuss your projects. What exactly do you want from a photographer? What exactly do you want the photos to be used, or do you want the photos to be used for? So I try to control that, so that at the end of the day, you will see the value that I bring in, and not just, hey, give me your price, and I just give you my price. We don't have any discussions. I just give you my price. You see, okay, it doesn't meet your budget, and then you move on. So I've got to that level where my clients now respect the kind of work I do, and the rates. Well, there's still some of them still have questions about rates and all, but the majority of them already know that yes, I have a certain value that I bring, and that's what matters to them.
Absolutely. Yep. No, that, and I would guess by just the quality of your portfolio, you're probably generally able to weed out a lot of those inquiries. I find that challenge in my own business where you get an email from someone, hey, we want you to do 2 days of photography. We're looking for 30, 40 shots, whatever. And
Yeah.
so I generally, I'll send an introduction to my business and who I am and how I work. But like you, I won't get into rates right away. I'll often actually ask, what is a ballpark budget for this project? And often I would say, 3, 4 times out of five, they will respond with a bit of a ballpark. And, if they come back with, oh, we have $200 for this, then okay, we don't need to go to the next step. Clearly, this isn't going to work out. But at least find out if you're on the same page with a potential client before going, the process of putting together a proposal and sample work and all the rest, it can be quite daunting. So to at least
Yeah.
know if you're even going to be close on the budget side of things is sometimes helpful.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Things are totally different from how you guys over there do things. There's a lot of similarity in how between how you guys in Canada or UK or US, Australia, how you guys do things. There are a lot of similarities in how you guys do things. We are totally different. Totally different.
Oh, interesting.
Um, because like I mentioned earlier, we're particular about rates. Many people just like rates. They just want to know how much it's going to cost them, and they try to control the photographer. Many of them, many clients tend to, or how would I say it? They tend to control the compositions. So it gives very, very, the room for flexibility is very low.
So do you
So
find
so
And do you find for yourself that you're trying to train the client to give you the flexibility and the respect that you deserve to do your job, or do you find that that's just the way it is, and if you want the work, you have to kind of put the camera where they tell you to put it?
oh yeah, you see, I try. You see, that's why there's so many things I'm trying to control, especially for at least for myself. And then some of the people, or some of the other photographers, we were trying to have a roundtable discussion at some point. So in order to structure how the photography, at least the architectural photography business here in Nigeria, how it is, we're trying to make it on this practically on the same level with how you guys are doing yours. So that maybe somewhat that things are standardized. So that we don't have people running based on, okay, I want to shoot, and the client is the one controlling you when it comes to composition. You have no flexibility, you have no creativity. It's where the client tells you to put your camera, you put your camera. I don't work personally. I don't work like that. So there's certain things I tell clients beforehand. I say it's okay for you to say, okay, you are the designer of the project. You may have certain kind of compositions in mind. I always try to tell them what you see in your mind is not what may not be realistic when we place the camera on site.
Mhm.
So give me a list of the kind of shots you want, and I will tell you on site if those compositions will work, and I'll tell you the reasons why they will not work. Recently I had a commercial client, just opened up. He just did a flagship store for a leading pharmaceutical and retail outlet. So I shot the project, and we're reviewing the photos just before he makes his selections, for final edits. And they were saying, why I should have gotten a shot like this. And I said, okay, if I shoot like this, then you miss the design element of this. And he says, okay, true. And I said, okay, I should shoot. He wanted everything to show. He wants all the shelves, everything to show fully. I said, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you need to give people the ability to envision or to think or to say, okay, this is a space. We're not seeing the entire space, but it opens up our mind to anticipate what the space actually looks for, or
Mhm.
what the space actually looks like. I say no, so we don't just shoot wide. We want to stay at one corner and blow to the widest focal length so they can capture everything in one at once. So it's what once the clients and once him And the moment him and I were able to sit down and discuss, he was able to see things from the way I saw things when I shot it. And he understood it. I said, oh, okay, that's what he understands now. I said, fine, that's how the difference between how you as a client who may not understand how photography works and how the photographer sees things. Yes, it's good for us to work together in synergy. You are the one to design the space. I'm the one looking at it through the lens. So we should work in synergy to see how we can bring this. But I feel allow the photographer to express his creativity, especially based on the brief you've given the photographer at the very beginning on what exactly you're trying to achieve with the photographs that you're taking. So allow for creativity. Allow the photographer to express his creativity. Tell the photographer beforehand, not while he has started, the kind of shots that you are looking at. And then if you happen to be on site with the photographer, you can sit down together and see whether those compositions will work. What we have here most of the time, I think some photographers are trying not to lose clients. So they obey every single thing the client says. So the client says, put your camera here, they put their camera there. But the client says, I want everything to be wide, and they make everything wide. So I think that's the problem we have, or it's one of the major problems we have, actually. There's less creativity where everybody seems to be following because they don't want to lose. They feel that if they don't follow, they will lose the clients.
Absolutely, and I think there is a way to shape and mold your client. I think a lot of photographers, at different times, myself included, I'm guilty of this. Is you just sort of go with it, or you might even dismiss a client for wanting a certain thing. It's good that you take the time to educate them and help them to understand your process and why you do what you do, because I think it's easy to be dismissive and just say, I don't want to work with them again. But if you take that time, you can have a very good client in the long term.
Very true. You're very right.
So, Mujib, maybe you can walk us through a little bit of your pre-production process. Do you do a scout for most properties, or do you kind of get an idea beforehand and then just show up and get the day started? What's that look like?
Just like I mentioned to you earlier, we are very different. We are very different from the rest of you guys. I think because of culture, how we are culturally, and how culture and ethics and how we do things and our traditional beliefs and all those kind of things. So we're very private.
Okay.
So yes, I have started to incorporate scouts into my work, but this is mostly for exterior architecture. Okay. When I want to shoot just the exterior, so I suggest to the client that I would like to see, because you want to see how the weather is, you want to see the direction of the sun, you want to use all those components, But when it comes to interior, that's where it's very tricky. Like I mentioned, we're very private. So coming to a space, if you're coming to a space beforehand, the owners of the project, not the clients this time now, the people that the clients are working for, as the owners of the property, they are very security conscious. Let me put it that way.
Okay. So
they don't like people just coming in and going out of their property. So that's why coming to do interior scouts is very. Some people are open. They are willing to say, okay, come in and check. You're coming in with the developer. You're coming in with the architect. Or you're coming in with the interior designer. But you can't go in by yourself.
Sure. Okay.
So we're still trying to battle that. So in that case, what I now do, or what I've started incorporating in my business now, is I try to tell interior designers beforehand, after you finish setting up, do a walk around and do a complete video of the space.
Okay.
Do videos, do pictures. Let me see things. Let me try to put things in context, so that as you're speaking about the project over the phone, I already have an idea of what the project looks like. I may not have been there physically, but at least I have something to work with.
Sure.
So that's basically what I use, the pictures and videos supplied by the clients. But in those instances where I can visit, then I visit, especially when it comes to shooting exterior. Shooting exterior, I don't think I even compromise on that one. I never walk to shoot an exterior architecture project without scouting the place first, because I don't necessarily have to go into the project or into the property. I can just park my car outside and just do a walk around, just walk around the vicinity and see how light falls on the building and all that stuff. So,
Totally.
um, yeah, that's how it is. I do a mix of scouting, a mix of and photos and videos provided by the clients.
Okay. Maybe we can jump a little bit ahead. You had told Lexi at AP Almanac, I think it was in April of this year, that when you go to a job, you do not use any supplemental lighting. I'm sort of jumping ahead to the technical part of things here. Is that still true? Are you still approaching a job without any supplemental lighting? You're using all natural light?
All natural lights or ambient lights from light bulbs and all. I've never shot with flash or strobes or continuous lights. I don't even know how to use them.
Really?
If I'm very honest.
That's incredible. So, okay, so maybe you can walk us through your shooting process, but let's start with what's in your gear kit.
Very basic. Right now, I shoot with a Canon 6D, and I have I have two lenses. I have a 17 to 40 millimeter, and I have a 24 to 105 millimeter, and that's all.
No tilt shift.
No.
Okay.
In this country, we don't. There's no one that uses a tilt shift. I think because of the cost and how we. So people tend to say, if we're going to buy or use a tilt shift, the return on investment is actually going to be very, because before you recoup that money you spent, and it's going to take a very long time. Okay. So people don't use tilt shift. I don't know of any architectural photographer here that uses a tilt shift. So we use the wide angle ones for, I think, the 16 to 35 millimeter, 17 to 40. Some go, but depending on whether you're using full frame or the crop sensor, people can use the 10 to 18. So we use a lot of wide angle lenses. But personally, in recent times, I don't shoot wide anymore. The moment I set up my camera, my default focal length is 24 millimeter. And then if there's any need for me to go wide at all, especially when I'm doing interior, I tend not to go lower than 20 millimeter. It's unless the client in one of the angles that they love so much, oh please, can you take this angle? I want to capture everything. It's not my preference, but the client says, oh please, I want that photo, and then I go the widest and I shoot it. But it just happens that when I post, I never post such kind of photos because I don't like distortions in my photograph. So that's why I tend to shoot a lot. I think I've been doing this for like 2 years now. Not shooting wider than 24 millimeter mostly.
Okay.
Instead of when I'm shooting exterior, then I can go wide.
Sure.
I can go as wide as I want. But when I'm shooting interior, I don't shoot wide. So I just move around with the Canon 6D. My backup camera is a 60D, a Canon, the same Canon 60D I told you about earlier. And my main lenses are the 17 to 40 millimeter and the 24 to 105 millimeter.
Okay.
I shoot with natural light. I bracket my photos and I manually blend them in Photoshop.
And are you trying to utilize the in-house lighting as much as possible? Lights on, lights off, lights at different dim levels?
Yeah, in recent times, I think because I try to practice with so many things these days. I'm more flexible these days because I never take a photo of anything without thinking about how I'm going to edit it. So I'm able to shoot any photo if I've not thought about how I'm going to edit it. So if I need to control the lighting in the room, so I don't have to put on, despite the fact that I use natural light to shoot or the existing ambient light from light bulbs and all that, I tend to control how those various light sources fall inside. Because one thing I don't like color casts. I try to minimize color cast in my photos. So I do that. I try to do that a lot on site first,
Hmm.
so that it reduces my work in Photoshop. But I want to get everything as pure and as natural as it can be. What the kind of the color you see here while shooting is the same color I want to get while I'm editing the photo. So I try to make up for that. I'm sure if I were using continuous lights or flashes and I could control and I put off all the light bulbs, it would have been much easier for me. But I don't know how to use supplemental lights.
Interesting.
So
And I would have sworn by looking at your images that you use flash. I mean, it seems like every chair in every restaurant has this perfect edge light. That looks like you stood there with an umbrella and you put a pop on that chair and you got a nice little rim.
now I think I supplement or I make up for that in Photoshop. I do a lot of work on Photoshop. I have practiced a lot. I have experimented a lot of stuff. One thing that I do is, many people don't see it, but it's what works for me. I go through pages of the photographers I like, and that I like their work, and I try to reverse engineer their photos. How did they achieve this? I know some of them use Flash or continuous light or something. But how can I achieve almost practically the same thing without using Flash? So I've gone to watch, a lot of Photoshop videos on how to mask properly, on
Okay.
how to what's the word I use? Exaggerate lighting. Yes. So when I shoot, I try to look at where the light is coming from, and I try to exaggerate that light
And so you're using
in a
luminosity
very
masks?
natural way. Sorry,
Mostly using luminosity masks?
I don't even use luminosity. I don't use I don't use luminosity mask at all.
Oh.
I don't.
So are
It's
you
all, maybe that's why
basically
it takes me.
pen tooling and manually painting in
Yes,
accents, shadows, all that sort of stuff? Okay, interesting.
exactly. Yes.
Wow. And so maybe you could talk a little bit more about how you do, especially with just using natural light only, achieve those white whites while your lights are on. I've seen some techniques where you're all lights off, you shoot sort of a color plate, if you will, and that's sort of your base color for the room, and then you turn all your lights on and composite those in later. Of course, do you use a color chart, or are you manually pen tooling every section of the room later and making those whites white? What is your process for getting those true colors?
Um, Sometimes I think it's a blend. It's a mix of both,
Okay.
depending on how I walk into a space and how much time I have on site. Um, we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time here. When you want to shoot projects, you don't have the luxury of shooting an interior project for 2 or 3 days. Oh no, you're only given limited hours to work. So that's why I can almost categorically say not many of us, or virtually 90% of us here, all shoot in brackets or shoot natural,
Okay.
because we're supposed to move, very quickly.
Hmm.
The designers or the homeowners don't have the luxury of time for you to, take your time to shoot and come back tomorrow, then come back the next day or the following day. You don't have that luxury of time. So you're given a very short window to shoot a property. So I think that's why everybody tries to be very creative in how they use their bracketing. So but for me, a bracket, yes, in three different exposures, and then I paint it in how I, I paint it how I want it to appear based on opacity. So I don't know. Wherever I want lights to be, I paint lights in whatever opacity I want that to be. Bright lights, dim lights. I control my lighting using the opacity. of the brush. I mask, I do a selection of virtually everything in the room. And then I treat every single one as an individual project of its own. So I can control the color, control the lighting, control the shadows. So that's why it takes me quite a while when I edit photos. One photo could take me 3, 4, 5 hours depending on the complexity of the photograph. And that's what I try to tell clients, that it takes time, so you need to trust the process. Yeah. When you shoot a project, a delivery period, most times I tell them is within 15 business days. It takes it takes fewer days than that most of the time, but at least I try to tell them that this is what it's going to take, because it takes time. It takes time to achieve the kind of result that you see on my Instagram feed, on my website. You like the photos, but that to achieve those photos takes time. So I take my time to be very meticulous to ensure that the appropriate the walls are the appropriate colors. Back in the days, when I changed my workflow, I wanted my whites to be completely white. If it's white, it's white. Irrespective of whether you had a warm white light in the room and stuff, my walls will be completely white. But along the line, I said, no, it's not realistic. You must have some, some color cast from the light or something. So I started allowing, a touch of color from these filaments to touch my wall, so it's not too, but I tend to control it so that it's not overly orangey. Mm-hmm. I don't like, so I, it's the same thing I apply to every other thing in the room, the chairs, to the coffee tables, mm-hmm. To the walls. Mm-hmm. I want to get the color. So one of my processes is, once I have finished shooting on site, I sit down with the designer and I ask for the colors of each item in the entire project. Mm-hmm. So it guides me when I'm editing. So that so when I'm editing it, there's no mix of different colors on the couch or something. Let's try to get the real color of the couch.
Sure.
So that's how I work.
Okay, interesting. So you're taking samples of the couch color that the designers provided you with, you're pen tooling the couch, and you're matching those two individual components. Yes. Yeah. No, wow, that. And again, I think that meticulousness and attention to detail really shows in your work, which is what really draws me to it. It's beautiful stuff, and frankly, it's rather shocking that you've only really been doing this for 4 years, and you're self-taught, and you don't use strobe lighting. It seems like you have a high level of control over exactly what is being done in your images, but it sounds to me like most of that is being achieved in post.
In post, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What I just try to do is, on site, is just ensure that I can reduce the color cast on site. I try to remove as much cables in the way, so that I spend less time on those things. When people, another aspect really is, clients get fascinated by certain things. They feel, I don't know whether it's what is the mindset or the kind of narrative that they've received over time as to how Photoshop works. You see a huge pile of wires and cables and everything, and they will just say, "And can't you just Photoshop that one out?"
Right.
And you're wondering, you think it's magic. I went to a site one day, and the person said, "Okay, I should shoot it." It was exterior architecture shots. A shoot for exterior architecture. And I got there, and there was, in fact, I don't know, a heap of garbage just by the side of the swimming pool area, and there was nobody on site to clear all those things. The client said, "This is the only day we had to shoot." So these are the challenges we have. Mm-hmm. You get there, clients want you to shoot at no, they don't care what is wrong with the weather, they just want you to shoot. Okay, they tell you the owner of the house has told them to leave the site. They want to hand over and all that. So this is the only shoot day they have, but the whole place is a mess. And then they expect magic.
Yeah.
When you now shoot the project, they expect you to take out all these things using Photoshop. So they think it's just a button you press and everything just disappears. So that's the mindset they have. And when you try to tell them, it's not as easy as it. You show the project now, and they call you in about 2 hours time and ask you whether the tools are ready. And, so they think it's magic. So we are the ones that always try to sensitize them and tell them that, see, it doesn't work the way you think it works in your head. Yeah, we all have that. People all have that mindset. Photoshop is a magical software. People use it to clean out things. People use it to remove things. You wonder, how did you do this? How did you do that? So they feel it's just a button you press and it's all done. But there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Yeah. Again, you're educating your clients. You're clearly doing a good job of that. For myself, I have a checklist that specifically mostly for residential architecture and for hospitality architecture. I have a couple different checklists that I'll send out to them ahead of the shoot. Things like make the bed sheets perfect. Have the pillow folds facing inwards. All those sorts of things that are just going to save us time. And then it sort of explains to the client that although yes, we can probably Photoshop a lot of things, we will end up with a better quality result with a less photoshopped look if these are addressed ahead of the shoot. Yeah. Do you use so you've mentioned Lightroom, Photoshop? Do you use any plugins in your work?
No.
Yeah. No, you for a guy who's self-taught, you've certainly done a good job of learning Photoshop. That is very obvious. Yeah. Now, one thing actually I noticed in a lot of your work that brought up an interesting thing in my mind is, you look at some photographers and they'll pull out every vent, every fire sprinkler, fire alarm. They'll pull out any sign of HVAC or utility within a building or a house or whatever. And I noticed in a lot of your images, you leave some of that stuff in. And so I was just curious to know, do you have sort of a policy or a threshold for what you leave in and what you decide to clone out?
All this is all subjective. It all depends on what the photo. My style. I remove sockets, I remove switches, I remove cables, I remove fire extinguishers. I don't remove ACs as air conditioners.
Okay.
Air conditioners are there. Yeah. I think because they're part of the living environment. The architects want them there, designers want them there. So most of the time we just leave them there.
Okay.
But sockets and switches and cables and smoke detectors. Personally, I take them out. Some photographers don't.
Yeah.
But again, it's all stylistic. It depends on what they want. So really, I don't fault anybody that leaves it. But I feel there are distractions in my photos. I tell my clients most of the time that when I edit, I take out these things, so that you are well prepared of what to see in my photos. I say, I'm trying to do this to help you, unless you're trying to sell also the kind of switches or the kind of sockets, then that's fine.
Sure.
So I tell them beforehand that, okay, this is my style. I take out sockets and switches. Do you want me to leave them there? Are they part of the things are they part of your design? And they say, no, they're not part of my design. Then I take everything off. If you say, okay, no, I'm trying, it's a very unique switch. And okay, so I leave it, so I leave them there. So it's all subjective, to be honest. Yeah. But if left to me, I take them out.
Yeah. I like the clean look myself personally, but it all depends, like you said, depends on the space and if it fits and if it's distracting.
Yeah, I don't want. It's distracting. I tell clients that we have a lot of concentration of sockets and switches when we do our work. So you can enter a home and just on one line, you will see 4, 5, 6 sockets on just one wall. And so your eyes tend to always, you're looking at the space, but those switches are pulling your eyes. So I try to tell my clients, see, I'm trying to help you so that people keep looking at what you've done in your space so that people are not, the eyes are not being drawn to the sockets and the switches or the stickers on the ACs. I take out all those things. Stickers on the ACs. ACs are fresh, all whites, with no, I don't, no stickers, no labels on them. So that's what I do.
Now, I'm curious. Can you, granted you haven't been doing this for that long, but can you share with us maybe a most challenging shoot experience that you've had architecturally, and how you may have gotten over that, if one comes to mind?
Yeah.
And that could either be the technical aspect of the shoot or even the client.
Well, let me say, to be very honest, yeah, I still get anxious. I still get anxiety. I still have a lot of anxiety before I shoot a project. So even the day before, I'm very anxious. I'm thinking about, oh, what could go wrong. So most of the time, when I get to site or when I start, I don't. I want to take a walk around the place first to
Mhm.
try to get comfortable, to try to put myself at ease, because for some reason, yeah, maybe it's good. People say anxiety is good. Maybe it shows you're passionate about, about the work you do. You don't want to make mistakes. So I walk around. I try to look around. I try to see. So the first few shots I may take, I may not like them, but I'm using them to warm up. I'm using them to warm up. So I shoot my first composition. I shoot my first shots. Shoot the next one. Shoot the next one. And then when I feel okay, I'm getting into the game. Then I come back again. So that first composition I had, then I can now sit down and look at it properly. I'm more relaxed.
Mhm.
I'm more relaxed when I do it. So that's the approach I use my for most of my shoots. Um, because it always happens that I always have that anxiety before every shoot.
Mhm.
I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to go there. That's why I feel I'm more at ease when I visit a place first. So it's the reason why I always push for visitation, like scouting, or,
Mhm.
or send me photos or videos of the space, as against going there blind. Because that is the most common approach here. You go to a place and the first time you're seeing the space is the time you are going to shoot the space.
Mhm.
So I am trying as much as possible. I'm trying as much as possible, um, not to or to reduce my anxiety levels.
Mhm.
If I see a space beforehand, I go there with more confidence, because I say in my head, I've already started to work out the various compositions. These are the kind of challenges I'm experiencing. We The major challenge, like me, I usually have most times is how people design it. This is for the interior. This is for the interior right now. How people design their spaces, the layout of spaces. So you are struggling to see what composition works best. Am I ready? A very small room. When I mean very small room, a very small room where the bed has virtually taken over most part of the space. You have a limited amount of space to walk around the bedroom, but there's so many things within the bedroom. So you're trying to work out what kind of composition should you take. So you are there for 30 minutes, almost an hour, trying to figure out what kind of composition works well. So you shoot, what do you call it? You shoot it um, wide. Then you start to focus
Tight in.
as you go on. At the end of the day, you now want to now sit down with the designer again and say, I find out exactly what they are trying to achieve for these kind of small bedrooms. Are they okay with vignettes? Are they okay with just detailed shots? Are they okay with showing the entire room? You don't mind whether the whole place is distorted, the entire photo is distorted and all. So that's when I now have to sit down with the clients again and find out exactly what they're trying to achieve. So these are kind of difficulties or kind of challenges I experience, mostly with very small rooms and what the clients are trying to get out of it.
Yeah, no, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the idea that when you show up, it's important to take a few minutes and to decompress a little bit and get to know the
Yeah.
space and feel the space, because I think a lot of us are guilty at a lot of times of just going in and we want to give our client as much value as we can as quickly as we can so we get
Yeah.
right to work and the gear's coming out of the bags and we're getting setting up the tripod and we haven't even really sort of calmed down and taken in the space and I think that just taking those few minutes is a really important thing. And your comment about stress, there's this bell curve of stress where you've sort of got complacency on one side and then just total basket
Yeah.
case on the other. And the peak
Yeah.
performance is somewhere on that upward. It's certainly not complacency and it's not, stress case, but there needs to
Uh-huh.
be that little bit of stress to keep you on edge and to keep you
Okay.
sharp.
So, yeah, you're right, actually. You're right.
So, Mujib, tell us about how you bill.
Now, that's a very tricky one here. Yeah. Hmm. Um, why we is this is one aspect that I personally have struggled with from the very beginning. I mentioned earlier that UK guys, you guys in UK, in Canada, in Australia, in US, have very similar ways of doing things, and pricing is not immune to that. Pricing is also quite universal or quite unique of amongst or between you guys in these countries. But here is different. Um, when I first started, I had no idea how many what people were charging. So I started charging per space. Okay, if you shoot one space, this is the amount I'm going to give. Shoot another space and all that. But it didn't work. It didn't work at all. So what I do now, after doing a lot of trial and error, my rates are based on the number of photos that you require. And this has factored in my shooting and my editing. So the rate covers shooting, editing, or scouting, shooting, editing, and all that.
And do you go to a
But it's
client and
based on
say
it. So
you
it's
can expect,
everything has one.
sorry, when you go to a client, do you sort of say, you can expect 15 photos in a day? Do you quote them a number associated with that cost?
I give them even before because it's purely based on packages. So if you want to have 10, 10 photos, 15, 20, 25, it moves in that order.
Okay.
um, 10, 15, 20, 25 for and the rest. So the clients on their own at first, based on I feel their knowledge of the space,
Hmm.
come to me and say, okay, we need 25 photos.
Hmm.
You know, when I get to the space and I look at it and say, okay, well, yeah, 25 photos, I could suggest that okay, you may need more. But what I do in those cases, so that because I said because of how we see things, if you just suggest at the beginning, the client feels you just want to take more money. So what I do is okay, the client comes to me and says, I want 25 photos of this space I just did. So I walk into the space, I go through every single space in the space and say, okay, I shoot. I have no limitations when I shoot. So in that entire project that the clients want 25, I may have shot 50 photos. And then I send the clients pre a little small pre-edited photos of those ones I shot. I'm not done any major edits. What I've already done is just straighten out the verticals and all that.
Okay.
And I send them in low resolution
Mhm.
to the clients to select what they need. So they pick the 25 if they want, or they pick more because they have shot more. I've shot many photos, or so they now feel okay. 25 photos may not be okay for them. They want 40. So the initial 25 did not work. It's now 40. So that's how I should. So that's how I approach things.
Okay.
So
And
it's
so
everything based
do
on.
you find that you typically will capture a certain number of images in a full day of shooting? Like an average?
Typically, on average, I could shoot off. If I'm shooting a full residential building, the entire every space within that building, I could do 65 photos.
In a day. Holy smokes.
But in the day actually, like I said, we don't have the luxury of time to say,
Sure.
come the next day,
Sure.
come the following day. If you are going to shoot, the moment you start, the moment you say I'm done, or I'm done for today, that is the end of that. There's no coming back because the clients, most of the time, our clients tend to wait until the last minute to do their photography, because they wait on the time until the time when the owner of the structure or the owner of the building has started putting a lot of pressure on them to hand over. And then some of them now feel photography is, they didn't actually think it through. I need to take photos. That's when they now call the photographer at the last minutes to come and take photos. So there's never enough time.
Sure.
So we just shoot. That's why we all go very light, without strobes, bracket your shots, and move on. It's a lot different for me when I shoot commercial. Commercial is a lot. I love shooting commercial these days.
Commercial.
Not all the time. Most of the time I'm alone actually. I feel I have better control. I move faster. I move faster when I'm alone actually, because I handle everything the way I want it. Sure. I shoot tethered. I'm wirelessly tethered to my iPad. So I'm able to move around and see my angles from the camera, so I can adjust things the way I want them. As against telling telling an assistant to go and shift, and they're not shifting it the way I want them to shift it, and then I have to go and do it by myself. So I feel it's a lot easier, and it takes away stress when I do it by myself. It's only when I feel tired.
Sure.
That's when I'm bringing assistance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and now going back to billing, just correct me if I'm wrong, but if I understand you correctly, in a sense, you're kind of including the shoot in the process, but then what you're doing is billing your client based on the number of images that they choose to be retouched ultimately. So if they pick 20 images, that's the package of 20 cost.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you have standard rates that you work with, or do you base it on the type of usage, the size of the client, or is it the same across the board?
It's basically the same across board, because I feel it's the same value. It's the same value I'm giving the startup that I'm going to give the big one. When I take a photo of your space, the major work is in the complexity of the space, what needs to be done on the photos. So that's why I don't segregate. I don't discriminate. For as long as you can pay the bill, whether you're a startup or you're a big one, it's still the same process. I'm not going to shoot somebody's own difference from the other. I think I've tried to get my mind in such a way that every client is, all clients are the same. I don't know whether that's the right way to put it. Yes, we know all clients are not the same, but especially those clients that don't argue with you when you give them your cost. We love those kind of clients. When you tell them your price and they just pay your price, they don't argue.
Right.
I love such kind of clients. But the moment I've accepted to do your job, whether you're a small one or whether you're a big one, I will still put in my all in the shooting process. I'm putting my all in the post-production process. I would not say because you're not paying me as much as this other person, so I'm not going to edit your work to the standard in which I will edit someone who's paying me better. The moment I've accepted to take up your work, I put in my everything. Right. So that's why I try as much as possible to filter clients before I want to go into business. I don't shoot for everybody. There are many clients that have approached me that I've turned down. And some of the ways that we turn down clients, if you don't want to tell them directly, is your normal cost, you just multiply it by 2, multiply it by 3, and they see your big cost and they run away by themselves. Yeah. So we don't you don't want to be rude and then I don't want to work with you. I had a client, I won't call it a client. Somebody approached me one day. It was still when I was I was still trying to find my way. She approached me one day. I said she wants me to shoot her project. Okay, I gave her my rate then, and she practically insulted my craft. Is it not just for pictures? Why is it so expensive? It's not just pictures you are taking. Why are you charging me like this? And then we didn't do business. So again, I think, as I say, as I've gotten better in what I do, she probably must have seen my work. And she approached me again recently. So when I saw the person, I didn't, I don't I lost every form of I didn't want to work with the person, to be honest, because if I feel you have insulted my craft from the very first time that we had the discussion, it waters down everything that you have to say. You may have changed over time, but that thing you mentioned quite a while ago still resonates in me, and I feel no, I can't accept this. So I find a way not to work with you. I just discharge you as soon as I can with ways that I know that you will not want to hear, like pricing. I just multiply my price by 2 or 3, and you run away by yourself.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. For myself, I find if a client is trying to get me to bring the price down and discount it, or they're just not respectful of the work, or both, I find that there's no point in me doing that job because I'm not going to give it my all, and I only want to do
Exactly.
shoots where I'm going to be 100% committed to the job. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you do contracts, Maju?
Um, that's another area where we have issues here. we we disrespect contracts in this part of the world. So, and there are many people that don't want to commit themselves into signing contracts. I tried to do that a couple of times, and I found out that nobody was signing. So I came up with something different. So I drew up in terms of service. So as we have had our preliminary discussions, and we've talked about how many photos you'd like, you told me about your project and all that. So as I'm raising my invoice, or as I'm sending you my or before as we're having our discussions, and I send you my rates, I send you my terms of service. So my terms of service already states what I expect of you as a client
Mm-hmm.
and what you as a client expects from me. I send them with my rate sheets. And then when I'm sending my invoice before we eventually start working, because here I get payment 100% before coming to come and shoot. So clients pay me upfront, complete, before I shoot their projects. So why I'm sending the invoice before the start of our relationship. So I'm sending the invoice, I send the terms of service again. So it's a case of the moment you have paid me is consent. You have paid me because you have read my terms of service and they are okay with you. And then that's when you paid me for my service. So the moment you have exchanged, the moment you have paid me for my service is seen as an agreement to my terms of service. That's how we see things here. So if there's going to be any breach or anything at all, I can refer you to my terms and say, this is what you have gone against this. And I've seen that nobody argues with me in that regard, because clients are when they see contracts, they get scared because they're all thinking about what are the legal implications of what if I breach my contract a bit? Is this person going to sue me? So people are very wary about signing contracts. So that's why I just came up with these terms of service that I send with my invoice, send with my rate sheet. So I send them twice so that you will not see that you will not see it.
Oh, I see. Now,
So the moment you have paid me,
does that
it's
mean that
consent.
you are collecting a payment in full upfront prior to the shoot, or are you collecting a deposit, or is this just all happening at the end?
No, no. My terms state that you pay me 100% before the shoot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes, yes, yeah, but I've built a relationship with certain clients. Why? There's certain things that make you do things in this country. When I started, I was taking deposits. So I would do, okay, pay me 70% first,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I deliver, you pay me the balance 30. You know, it was working for a bit. And then I realized now that there were some clients that they'll pay the 70%. You have delivered the project. They don't have any issues with your photographs. In fact, they have started posting the photographs on social media,
Right.
but they have refused to pay your balance. So it now becomes a nightmare chasing for outstanding payments and all. So I was tired of that hassle
Okay.
of wanting, of always going to, oh, pay me, it's time for you to pay my balance. The client has said, oh, I forgot. Oh, sorry, the banking app wasn't working. Oh, sorry, I've not gone to the bank today. So there are so many excuses.
Okay.
But meanwhile, you started posting the pictures on social media. So I was tired of all that. So that was the reason why I moved from taking deposits to paying complete. So I feel that it's now on you. You have paid me, I'm going to deliver the service. I'm going to deliver. So the moment I've delivered and you like it, they will move on. Yes,
Interesting.
I don't have to drag you for anything anymore.
And do you find that that's a fairly typical business practice in Nigeria, where you're requesting payment in full upfront prior to the services?
Yeah, many. I'm actually not the only person that it's common. It's common in the wedding photography industry.
Oh, okay.
Um, Practically for the same reason,
Mm-hmm.
where you pay deposits and it's always a struggle to get your balance.
Sure.
So that's the reason why I think quite a number of us have chosen this line, or have chosen this path.
Mm-hmm.
There are still some people that still accept to do deposits. It's fine. I still do deposits, but for very select clients,
Okay.
clients that I've built relationships with,
Yeah.
that were practically friends. I know they're not running away. I know they're not going to cheat me.
Yeah.
So I could actually do deposits for them. Okay, no problem. Some have even got to shoot without even taking any deposits. So it depends on the kind of relationship that we have built over time.
Yeah.
And then I now say, okay, fine. I know these clients very well. We're practically friends now. So I can go ahead and shoot your project without even collecting a deposit. Because I already have the confidence that you will pay me. I don't have to drag, and pester you for my balance or for my money at any single time. So that's how it works. I think
Sure.
it's all relationship, to be honest.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And very quickly, how do you deal with third-party licensing? So you shoot for the Sheraton Hotel, and the designer and the hardwood flooring manufacturer, they want the photos. What do you do in that case?
That's it. If this is a very this is still a very it's still a very troubling area here. One, because our copyright laws are not very airtight.
Okay.
They're never enforced. So people just do things as they like. I have battled this thing on many occasions. You shoot for somebody, and the person feels okay. He just gives your photos to somebody else, and that person pushes your photographs to sell their own business without recourse to you. They don't even give you credits.
Right.
Just by chance,
Yeah.
you just see your photo on somebody. You don't wonder, this is my photo, but I didn't take this photo for this person. And then you approach the person, and the person tries to bully you on your photo. So it's still a very dicey area here. Licensing doesn't work here, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
Uh, when the only time it works is when you have that kind of relationship with the client, or you try to brief the client from the very beginning that, say, as I'm taking these photos for you, you cannot give these photos to any other person or any other party without your consent.
Right.
Or I have licensed a few photos, to be honest. There are some clients that understand that photos need to be licensed. There are some clients that understand that I cannot take these photos and use them for my commercial gain, without actually seeking the photographer's permission, or something like that. So I've actually licensed a few photos to some clients, but most of the time, especially with the residential clients, interior designers, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. They take the photos and give someone else. Recently, I shot a smart home. It's a home that was, a smart home. Shot it for the guys that did the smart home technology. Um, they now gave in turn gave those photos to the interior designer. I didn't even know who the interior designer was,
Mm-hmm.
and the interior designer that went ahead and published the photos in in a magazine in this country, and that was where I got to see my photos. I saw my photos in the magazine, posted sent in by the interior designer, and I had no clue. I wasn't given any credits. I wasn't. I approached the interior designer to say, "Hey, you didn't give me. I shot this project. I'm sure you know I shot this project. Um, and you took my photos. You didn't even have the decency, at least, to give me credits for the photos." And the designer just pretended that the designer never responded to my email or never responded to my DM on Instagram. So see, that's how it is here, which is very sad. We're hoping that at some point, someday, we're able to change all this.
So I'm guessing that there maybe aren't great litigation options through the courts to chase after that sort of stuff. So therefore, what's the incentive to not steal somebody's images?
Exactly. It's done here with reckless abandon. People just do it anyhow because there's no you can't. Who are you going to meet? You go and meet the copyright agency or the copyright, and they're looking at you, or the case is delayed. Is delayed for a very long time that it now frustrates you.
Yeah.
So you now tend to just give up and just move on.
Right.
So
Hmm.
it's a very unfortunate situation, but that's how it is here.
Yeah, that's a very unique challenge that I could see being exceptionally frustrating. And I suppose until that eventually changes, you've got to make sure that the rate at which you charge makes you happy that those images are out
Yes. Yes, exactly.
there. Uh, so, just quickly, what does the next 10 years look like for you, Majib? Do you have any plans for changes in career? Do you have thoughts of what you want to leave as legacy? All that sort of stuff?
Well, you see, I ask myself this question all the time. But you see, what really drives me really is why I started this in the very first, why I started this in the very first place. Um, when I started doing interior and architecture photography, I really had a mindset, I had a dream, I had a vision that one day I want to shoot international projects. I want to shoot projects outside the shores of Nigeria. Um, I want to shoot many hospitality projects. I love I love to see photos of hotels,
Mm-hmm.
and resorts. So I have this dream, So when I have the opportunity of shooting for shooting hotel projects here in Nigeria, I'm excited because I like hospitality photography. So I've had this dream of shooting international projects for international architects and interior designers. And I still have it. And I feel I'm getting to that with the little recognition I'm getting gradually. I feel one day and a door will open for me to explore architectural photography outside the shores of Nigeria. So that's it really. That's the vision that drives me. So I feel I don't compete. I'm not competing with anybody. I do things to make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like they say, or like the common saying, you compete with yourself. Look at your work yesterday and look at your work today. If there's any difference, then that's the kind of competition you need. I'm better than how I was yesterday. That's what I always strive for. With the new recognitions I'm getting, or the recognitions I've been getting so far, I feel I'm doing the right thing. All I just need to do is to trust the process and keep doing the work. And I believe one day everything will fall into place. So that's just it, really. That's the vision I have. I want to try to learn. If I'm not going to try, I need to learn how to use lights because I don't want to be placed in a situation where I'll have very serious limitations. I try to be very creative in my Photoshop technique or how I shoot. Like I mentioned, I never shoot anything without thinking about how I'm going to edit the photo. So I think that has helped me over time. But I feel that a time may come where I may struggle. And I'm very open. I think about it all the time. I'm open. I don't want to deceive myself and feel, hey, come on, my style will always work. I could get the opportunity of shooting a very, if for an international person one day or international clients one day, and there's need for me to use supplemental lights. Sure. And I don't want to get to that position and I don't know how to use supplemental lights. And then I shoot myself in the leg and I lose that opportunity. So that's what I want to learn so that I want to learn it, well, most likely New Year. So that I feel I'm well grounded. I feel I'm well grounded to take my art, to take my craft above or across the shores of Nigeria.
Good for you. Well,
if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, it does. And based on how you have done so far, from looking at your portfolio and the fact that you've only really been doing this for, maybe 4 or 5 years, I think you, and also combined with your attitude about learning and growing and competing only with yourself. I think all of these are great ways in which you're going to exceed beyond the shores of Nigeria, as you put it. I think amazing things in store for you. It has been a real pleasure sitting down and chatting with you, Mujib. I've been looking at your work for quite a while now via Instagram. I love it. It's inspiring to me, and I'm really thankful that you've taken this time to sit down and chat with me. How can people find your work? What's the best way to see your portfolio?
Well, most of the time, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Mujibu Jayful. I have a website, mujibujayful.com. So mostly just mostly these 2 platforms, to be honest. But mostly on Instagram, though. But yeah.
Yeah, you do post quite regularly, and I always look forward to seeing your latest work. Mujib, so mujibojefo.com or Instagram. Thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with me. This is really good, and I'm super excited to see what you do next. So,
yeah, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate this. All right. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it.
It is 3 o'clock where I am in Canada. It is probably midnight where you are. What time is it actually?
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
It is actually 3
You're ready for bed. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
And you too. Cheers.
Bye now.